Albert had a great love of the desert. He loved the open spaces, the nature. He was a hiker, and after years living on the desert floor, after he built Frey I, he said looking up at the mountains all these years, he decided he'd love to live up there. And of course he grew up in the mountains of Switzerland, so it was a natural for him to want to have this wide open vista. And as you can see from Frey II, that's what he achieved with the way he sited the house on the mountain with this huge expanse of nature in front of him and below him. There's nothing like experiencing the house because photographs cannot do it justice. The vistas, the expanses of views are just so magnificent, and the house itself is so incredibly designed that experiencing it both inside and out are really, really treasured moments. He was very deliberate in his color choices because they brought nature into the house. The ceiling in the house is that corrugated aluminum, which is also turquoise, reflecting the sky. The curtains on the south side of the house are yellow, which he chose to relate to the blooming encelia. The large rock that separates the living area from the bedroom area is really what pivots the house. Albert designed the house with that in mind so that the roof rests on it and the glass on the east facade is cut to miter along the edge of the rock. And you can see how carefully that was designed and crafted. Below the bed, he actually has a sliding panel with a safe behind it, and that panel also has that cut edge that meshes up against the rock. Albert's choice of materials were selected because of their functionality, their modest price, and also the fact that it's really part of the modernist aesthetic to choose materials that do not need any embellishment. The hanging globe is really a light fixture in the living area of the house. And I think because Albert grew up in Switzerland, he came to New York, he had relatives in different parts of the world, I think it relates to the sort of global vision he had and connection to people around the globe. Between the bed area and the seating area, there is a cabinet with a built-in, at those times it was called a hi-fi. It was a record player with a speaker, and the deck was built in as well so that things could be hidden and not clutter things up. The clock is typical of many clocks designed during the modern period. George Nelson was very famous for designing clocks, and this one at Albert's has that same clean, pure, serene kind of detail to it. The counter where Albert dined and used as his drafting table has a pencil sharpener underneath. So that was a multifunctional place, and when you sit at one of those chairs, it's an awesome view from that vantage point across the Indian Canyons and somewhat southeast toward Southridge. The chairs behind the drafting table dining surface are aluminum wrapped with rope, which has a somewhat nautical feel to them, and it's something that Albert continued with his North Shore Yacht Club, and his theme of ocular windows that he used in Frey I, the Yacht Club, and then some of those elements in his own home. The built-in furniture around the pool is very typical of Albert, and it's actually a feature that he designed for the Villa Savoie. And so this concept of building furniture out of the concrete material is something that he brought from that experience. And it really makes a very uncluttered look, and it's part of the sort of shipbuilding design that is evident throughout the house. The kitchen surfaces are stainless steel, which is of course a very practical material. And it's a very modest kitchen. It's an alley kitchen so that everything could be reached on one side or the other. The materials that Albert chose, for example, in the kitchen cabinets, it's fiberglass, so the plates could stack in the grooves of the cabinet. And then the ceiling, of course, has that same curving rhythm, like waves. And those were really typical kind of design choices at that time. Products were created with that motif. And he chose that obviously very carefully. When you arrive at Frey II, you notice right away at the base of the stairs is a large cowbell, which is from Switzerland, of course, and it actually rings so that it could announce guests' arrival. And as you walk up the stairs, you start realizing that as you're going up just those few feet, how it changes the view from just being at the parking lot level up to the pool level. This house is greatly admired by architects, and I often take architects from New York or Chicago, Seattle, up to the house, and they admire it and get it immediately and know, because they've read about Albert, they know him by reputation, but experiencing the house is another question. In the last few years, we've opened it during Modernism Week because there is such a demand to see it, such an expectation that this is such a great modern building that the visitors to Palm Springs and even locals are very intrigued by this opportunity because it's such a good example of Palm Springs architecture. I'm Sydney Williams, Curator of Architecture and Design at the Palm Springs Art Museum, and I've been curator here for 10 years.